All right, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a team that's obviously been involved with a lot of news this offseason, a lot of big time moves, a lot of big time question marks at all the glamour positions. But if you listen to one Steelers veteran, I think the most important Steelers veteran, there's one particular addition, one rookie who's off to a great start. We'll get into that report in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick. That is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, anytime you get through this time of year, especially with the Pittsburgh Steelers, with all the rumors, everything flying around, who knows, by the time you watch this video, there could be massive shifts one way or the other. I like to look at what the coaches are saying and doing and what the veterans are saying and doing, right? We're into OTAs. The rookies have met up with the veterans and starting to practice for the first time. And if you look at all the reports when it comes to, I think, the most important Steelers veteran, and that, of course, is Cam Heyward, you listen to what he's saying when it comes to rookie first-round pick Derek Harmon, there is something special brewing there because we all know Heyward, he's a team guy, undeniably so, but he's old school. He's a straight shooter. Let's go into his comments when it comes to Harmon, and then we'll break down some very interesting data here. So we got two reports for you. Let's throw them up on the screen. This first one is courtesy of Fansided. Again, this is Heyward talking about Harmon. That kid is very inquisitive. Heyward told reporters at OTAs he asks a lot of questions outside of just football. He just wants to be good. He has a good head on his shoulders, and there's not a lot of him being boastful, like I did it this way or I did it that way. He's really just trying to learn. Speaking to Harmon's mindset, wants to learn from a guy like Heyward, wants to learn in general. I love that from rookies. I hate rookies who come in and say, oh, I already know everything. My first round pick, I was an All-American or whatever. Nah, NFL, new game, got to take a new mindset. Love to see that from Harmon. Keywords there from Heyward. This next report is courtesy of Yahoo Sports. Derek Harmon, really good football player, even better person. I think everyone's got a chance to hear his story. I like the way he plays on the field. Harvard said on his not just football with Cam Heyward podcast. He can play 5 technique, a 3 technique, a 4 technique. That's it. For those of you who aren't familiar, that's outside the tackle, head up the tackle, outside shoulder of the guard. Good hands, good acceleration. I think he's only going to continue to just keep getting better. I think we really lucked out with that. Really lucked out, strong words there, getting a guy like that early in the draft. And PinLive.com actually came out today with a report talking about another update saying how much Heyward is enamored with Derek Harmon as a rookie coming into the Steelers fold. Now, look, we always talk about getting excited and overly excited during OTAs, and that's a fair thing to keep your mind on. But when Cam Heyward's saying things like this, there's reasons to get pumped up about Derek Harmon. And when you look into the data, it gets really interesting as well. Let's go ahead and pull up our chart here. This is looking at the percentile rankings of the mid to late first-round picks in last month, I guess technically still NFL draft. If you're still viewing this in May, it's the end of May as we're recording this. So you can look at the percentile ranking. So basically, are you in the 99th percentile as a defensive tackle last year in college football, like you're the best of the best, or you're in the first percentile? You're pretty awful. And we looked at Tyreek Williams, we looked at Kenneth Grant, Williams to Lions, Grant to the Dolphins, Walter Nolan, and then we had Derek Harmon here to kind of round out the list. And if you look at all of these guys in terms of where they're ranking, I think it's very insightful. You can see overall, Williams, Grant, Nolan, Harmon. You can see right there, Nolan has a very slight edge over Harmon, but basically at the same level. You can see run defense grade. Harmon does decent, but the other 3 guys are better. But notice pass rush grade. Look at that massive leap. First of all, Williams is terrible at pass rush. That's not a typo. He's just not good at that. But if you look at Grant and Walter Nolan, not even close to as good in terms of pass rush department for Derek Harmon. Significantly better, 99th percentile for Derek Harmon last year. That's incredibly high, of course. One of the, I would argue, the best. He was one of the top 2, if you look at their grades, defensive linemen, defensive tackles in terms of pass rush grade, according to PFF. That's what the Steelers are looking for, and that's what Cam Heyward, I think, is alluding to in terms of his positional flexibility. Because as good as the Steelers team was against the run last year, they finished 17th in pressures, 17th in sacks. And now they did have some injuries to deal with, but they needed more pressure up front. They were relying too much, I think, on the Herbigs, the Highsmiths, the Watts. And when the injuries occurred, right, it just completely degraded their ability to get after the quarterback. And I think the addition of a guy like Harmon here, a guy who can get after the passer better than pretty much anybody in college football from his position last year, this will be a massive move, a massive get for Pittsburgh, kind of a final piece to add to this front 4, front 5, whatever you want to call it, with their defense to really make life harder for opposing quarterbacks. And Miles, before I throw it over to you, how about a little Cam Heyward appreciation post? Let's go and throw up a little graphic right here. So this is Derek Harmon's percentile rankings compared to Cam Heyward's percentile rankings in the NFL last year. So we talk about being in the 99th percentile is really good. Look at Cam Heyward for literally every single one of his attributes. He's either 99th, 98th, or 97th. This guy at his age is absolutely unbelievable. That's incredible numbers there. I mean, that's just an absolutely bonkers to be literally 99th, 98th, 97th at his age, right? The only guy that comes to mind that's even close to him is Aaron Donald. He, of course, has retired, all first ballot Hall of Famer when it's his time. Heyward doesn't get the same praise as Aaron Donald for whatever reason, but Heyward, when you look at his raw data, he is absolutely incredible. And to that point, Mize, I know you've got a few thoughts on the Steelers, but first, Steelers fans in the comment section below. Obviously, we're talking about Harmon, but let's give Heyward some props here. What is your favorite story, favorite moment from a favorite play from Cam Heyward's career, right? Obviously, it's not done yet. It could be in front of us, but up to this point, what is your favorite Cam Heyward memory as a Pittsburgh Steeler? Let us know in the comment section below. But Mize, over to you. Let us know your thoughts on Derek Harmon and how he's going to fit into this Pittsburgh defense.
Yeah, Nick, and quickly first on one of your points, Cam Heyward, 2 years, almost 3 years older than Aaron Donald anyways, and Donald's been out of the league for one more year, so pretty crazy he's still doing it at such a high level. And I think that was the first thing that jumped to my attention is when you hear Cam Heyward and you look at this, I guess being in a 3-4, can we call it a front five, or how? I don't know how you would classify it, but the Steelers front, seven with the 2 edge rushers, outside linebackers dropping down. You have the 3 down defensive linemen. When you look at that unit now, it is something to behold. They have some of the best pass rushers in every facet of the game. Now, you have Highsmith, you have Watt, who are absolutely incredible. You have Cam Heyward, who, through your graph, 99th percentile. This is a guy who is the 3rd best interior defensive lineman at rushing the passer last season. Absolute phenomenal 85.9 grade there. Keanu Benton, the young guy, doing really good as well at a 76.8 pass rushing grade last season. So that's something he really excels at as well. And then you have Derek Harmon, the young gun guy coming in here. This Pittsburgh the front 5 of this team is absolutely incredible. It is something to behold, and I think it's going to strike fear into the hearts of quarterbacks when you have guys like this, because Derek Harmon, I think he brings something special to this team. I think he's going to be your next. It's very early on, but you got to look for a succession plan. You have to have your next Cam Heyward. Now, I don't know if he's going to bring the same leadership abilities, the same heart to this Pittsburgh team, but skill-wise, what he does as far as being a really strong pass rusher in the middle, this is a guy that can do a lot of really good stuff for Pittsburgh. And you look at, just size-wise, everything like that, Cam Heyward, 6'5", 295, Derek Harmon, 6'5", 310 pounds. They're similar-sized guys. They fits the same mold. I think this is your new Cam Heyward succession plan because, as I said, Cam Heyward, he's getting up there. He's still playing at an incredibly high level as far as being 36 years old, but I think that, he's got another good year or two in him, but eventually the guy's got to retire. He can't play forever at this point. It's getting a little bit ridiculous, but Harmon, I think you found a guy here that can slot in, and after a year or two playing under Cam Heyward's wing, seeing what he's able to do, I don't think you miss Cam Heyward that much if Harmon can live up to his potential. I know it's tough to say. You probably missed the leadership, but the performance, the level of play, what Harmon can bring to this defense, I think Steelers fans are going to love it. I think they're going to really enjoy having him on this team because this is a guy who fits perfectly in the mold of what Cam Heyward does. And I think as a young guy, having Cam Heyward to learn from, to be like Cam Heyward, what better model is there going to be? And I think the Steelers got an absolute win. I know it was a first-round pick, and it's hard to call a first-round pick a steal, but this guy was an absolute successful draft pick for me for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, and if you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers PFF grades, if specifically pass rush, and I know you Steelers fans, I hear from you guys every time I bring up PFF. Oh, I hate them. Fair. Okay, let's put that to the side. What was interesting with Pittsburgh is that they had sort of like this crazy sort of pendulum in terms of how good they were at getting after the passer. They were incredible grades, incredible numbers, like you mentioned, but they also had a lot of guys that were very, to be honest, not living up to the expectation. So they had so at the top of their list, TJ Watt, Cameron Heyward, Keanu Benton in terms of pass rush snaps, right? Those 3 guys, 90, 86, 77 respectively, right? Pretty good. But then you have Larry Ogunjobi, who grades out in the 50s, right? So you have elite, and then you have not elite. You have an F, you have failure, right? And I think that's what the Steelers are trying to address with Harmon. Then it goes on, Highsmith and Herbig. They averaged between the two, Highsmith 89, Herbig 91. That's really good. Then right after that, you got Loudermilk with 55, and then Montravius Adams was 61, and Preston Smith was 61, right? So you have elite, you have great, you have fantastic, but you have too much of terrible paired with it, right? And I'm not trying to, diss any of those guys. It's just what the numbers say. I'm just saying what the numbers are according to PFF. So if you look at where the Steelers are, really good at rushing the passer, but their inability to convert that into enough pressures and sacks, I think it's because they didn't have that next layer of guys, that second wave, right? They obviously had the Herbigs, the Highsmiths, the Watts, the Heywards doing a lot of great things, but they didn't have that third tier, that second, third tier of guys, the Harmon leading the charge here, paired with the Keanu Benton here, to really elevate that pass rush. Because if you talk about what makes you a good team in terms of defensively into an elite team, and Steelers fans, you know this better than anybody, it's not just your top flight talent, it's that next wave of depth across the board at every position. And I think when they had those injuries, and we saw it last year for Pittsburgh, they noticeably dipped. Depth was a problem. And obviously succession plan is going to be a very interesting thing to talk about when it comes to the veteran guys. And of course, TJ Watt at the end of his deal as well. There's going to be a lot of question when it comes to how the Steelers are going to handle that whole situation. But it's clear the Steelers, at least in the short term, need depth. And Harmon's a guy who can come in and give them perfect depth at that position. Good at run defense, far from a liability, but elite pass rushing talent. He can spell Heyward, he can spell whoever, and that way when the Steelers get in these situations or when they have an injury, they don't go from being a great defense to mediocre in terms of getting the quarterback on the ground. I look at Harmon as the kind of guy that can come in right away, day one, be a great depth piece, and over time, growing and develop to become one of the next great Steelers defensive linemen.